If you've been laid off or are worried that it's coming, you have two jobs: protect your sanity and protect your money. This video is the exact things me and my family did when I got laid off, and I'll also share one tip at the end that was a mistake so you don't repeat it. I've lived your pain. My father passed away, and a week later, while still obviously grieving, I was informed I was getting laid off. The week after that was my last day of work. I had 19 years in corporate America, and this was my first time experiencing this. It hit me especially hard because I was still grieving. So trust me, I know what it feels like to have your world crumble around you. Let's walk through what actually helps. The first move is simple, but really important. File for unemployment the first day that you're eligible. Don't wait. Don't assume your severance disqualifies you. File. That cash flow, even if it's not huge, buys you breathing room and options. You will feel better knowing you have something, anything coming into your budget. Approval also can take time, so file now so that the gears of bureaucracy can get going while you move on to the next step. Second, build your bare bones budget. You need to know exactly how long your money will last if you cut back to the absolute essentials. It sounds scary, but knowing your runway can take away some panic because you're no longer guessing, you're working with real numbers. So pull your bank and credit card statements, cut back to the non-essentials, and also be aware of any of those automatic payments that apply every 3, 6, or 12 months. They're easy to forget about. Once you know how much it's going to cost you to live every month, you can take whatever pile of cash you've got from an emergency fund standpoint or a severance and divide that by your bare bones budget. You now know how long your runway is. Third, cancel what you don't need. For us, that meant YouTube TV, Walmart Plus, and a couple of credit cards with annual fees. A note here if you're canceling credit cards. Make sure you cash out those points before you call and cancel. For us, what that looked like was cashing out about $400 worth of points into Home Depot and Old Navy gift cards, which actually turned out to be really critical because a few months after I got laid off, we had all sorts of plumbing issues in my house, and as you might expect, my kids are constantly getting bigger and needing more clothes. So be merciless with your cuts. You can always add stuff back in later. You might decide, I do want that streaming service because I need something to help me relax. That's fine in the future. For now, every dollar counts, and you'd be surprised how quick the little wins add up to be significant. Now, before we go any further, I want you to pause. If you're watching this video, you've either been laid off or you're really worried about being laid off. So take a deep breath. You're still here. You will figure this out, just like you figured out every other hard thing that's ever come in your life. I'm not saying it'll be easy, but you can do this. Okay? Let's keep going. Next, max out your company benefits. This isn't just about health insurance, but we will start there. When you get laid off, usually your health insurance in the United States lasts until the end of the month. But your layoff paperwork should clearly articulate how long it lasts before you're eligible for COBRA. While you've got coverage, schedule your family's appointments. Get those annual physicals. Get your kids to the dentist for their 6-month cleanings. Get your eyes checked. If you've got any of those nagging illnesses or pains or something like that, go to the doctor. Get checked out while you still have coverage. If your providers say that they're booked for the next month because you're trying to get in by the end of the month, explain your situation. Most providers would much rather bill the insurance company rather than you, and they can be pretty understanding or put you on a wait list or something like that if they're actually booked solid. And if you can't get in, find someplace new to go and get in before your coverage runs out. As I mentioned, this isn't just about your health or dental or vision insurance. A lot of companies now have health benefit programs or weight loss programs, something like that, where if you're going to the gym, you can get reimbursement for that. So submit your claims for these in the first week. I was able to pay for my annual Zwift subscription and save me over $200 with a few clicks of a button. Tip number 5, do not rage on LinkedIn. You cannot change the past. You cannot change that your company saw you as disposable and as just another number on a spreadsheet. So instead, write down your accomplishments. You're going to forget them. You don't need to do a full resume rebuild at this point. Conserve your energy, but you do want to write down projects you worked on, teams you were a part of, and specific accomplishments that you had at your employer. Future you, if you don't do this, might just remember, I ran a project, but forget the specific impact to the business or, how much money or time it saved or whatever. But specifics matter in your job search. You will crush your next interview in the best way possible if you write down now what it is you accomplished while you still remember it. It doesn't have to be a novel, just bullet points. Future you that decides to get the resume out can then take those bullet points and be reminded of what it is you did and update it more professionally. Tip number 6 is not financial advice. This is just what we did. You want to maximize safely the return on investment of your emergency fund or severance that you have. We didn't want our emergency fund in the stock market, and let me tell you, we were super thankful it wasn't when the stock market dropped 19% earlier this year and then bounced back immediately. But that doesn't mean it should be earning 0% in a checking account either. We moved a majority of our cash into Vanguard's money market fund that at the time and still currently is paying 4.2%. Even if the amount of interest you earn isn't massive, it's a significant difference, and any amount of income is cash flow that extends your runway and helps out your budget. And it only takes a few clicks of a button. Keeping us in the financial realm, you don't have to pay off debt immediately. The pile of cash that you have, however you got it, is what you have to live off of until you have income coming back in. Taking a chunk of that and using it as a lump sum to pay off debt all at once might not be the best decision right now. You kind of have to do the math. Let me give you an example. We have a car loan and a relatively high payment that comes out of our budget every month, and we have the money to pay it off. But as I mentioned, we're earning 4.2% on that money, and the car loan is only 1.9%. So while it hurts to see that money leave our bank account every month, we're actually earning more interest by keeping the lump sum of money than by paying it off early. That might not be the case for you. You have to do the math. I will never say, hey, keeping 25% credit card debt is a great idea. But while you're getting your financial house in order, it's not going to kill you to have a couple of extra weeks while you figure everything out and actually do the math. Because the worst thing to do would be to take a really large chunk of your emergency fund, pay off one thing, and all of a sudden have a new emergency. Next, you need to look at what are the ways you can bring income in as soon as possible. That's going to be your typical gig type work, so Uber, Lyft, things like that. For us, that didn't really work in our city. Instead, I decided to do surveys online, and they've actually worked out to be about $100 per month. For us, the biggest thing to move the needle was my wife going back to teaching private piano. It doesn't cover anywhere near our monthly budget or what I used to make, but it puts a significant dent in what's going out of our bank account every single month. Tip number 9, sell your crap. When you start looking around and considering what is actually essential in my life, because you did that in an earlier tip, you start to look around your house and realize a lot of this stuff is not essential, and it can actually start to feel like it's weighing you down. Now, in my case, I was also helping my mom sell off some of my dad's stuff because he'd passed, stuff that she just wanted out of the house. We had a garage sale, we listed some stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and in a pretty short period of time, we made about $300. And honestly, that felt like a small but meaningful win. Yes, financially, but also emotionally. It felt like, okay, something's gone right here. Our house has a little less clutter in it, and I felt productive, like I was taking the things where I had been productive at work and now applying them in a different way. And also, we only sold in person, no eBay, no worrying about shipping, no worrying about returns. Like, I'm going to show it to you, we'll show up, I'll deliver it to a gas station, we can meet in person, you pay me in cash, and we're done. Tip number 10, get ready to wrench. My dad used to always say, it's always something, meaning something is always breaking or needing fixing or whatever. And my goodness, was he right. In the first 6 months after I got laid off and we kind of decided I'm taking a gap year, We had all sorts of plumbing issues. Our kitchen sink clogged not once, but twice. We had a toilet that had a flush valve that needed to be replacing because the water was running all the time and using extra water. And then we had a different toilet where the tank cracked from the handle on down. And we're so lucky that we were home to catch it and it didn't flood our house. All of those things, as you can imagine, if we'd called a professional plumber, would have cost easily $1,000 at a time where clearly we didn't want to spend $1,000. So, YouTube to the rescue. I fixed all 4 of those things myself, and that too felt like an emotional win. I am useful. Not in the same way, but I am useful and I can do this. Now we're on to tip number 11, and after this I will have the mistake that we made to share with you. Tip number 11 is optimize your home cooking. Eat leftovers. Every bit of food waste directly impacts your budget. That's pretty obvious, but it becomes more clear when you're fretting about what your grocery budget looks like every single month. So cook in batches, make meals last, make sure nothing gets thrown out. We were already pretty good at this, but have since gotten even better with making sure meals last for 2 nights in a row. It makes it easier to cook. And also having a monthly meal plan so you can kind of see where ingredients that you might not use all of earlier in the week can be used later in the week. It's a simple thing that we probably should have been doing all along to make our lives easier, but especially financially, it really does help. And you'd really be surprised once you kind of get into the flow of cooking. And if you don't know anything about cooking, YouTube is your friend. Not me, but YouTube is your friend. You can cook some really good meals that will put restaurants to shame. And restaurant eating, even if you're employed, is extraordinarily expensive these days. All right, now let's talk about the mistake I made. And really, this could apply to any of the other tips. But the mistake for us is I waited entirely too long to apply for healthcare.gov health insurance. I assumed, because I got laid off in March and I got a severance, that the lump sum money would mean I'd be eligible for healthcare.gov coverage. I just might not get the same tax break as you would as if you had zero income. Instead, it turns out that our almost zero current income meant that healthcare.gov sent us to our state Medicaid program. They thought we would be eligible there. I had been banking on a special enrollment period with healthcare.gov, and the Medicaid program says it could take up to 45 days to take a decision, which is fine, except I applied about a week and a half before our COBRA coverage was ending. You can imagine that added a bit of stress to my life, and I felt like such an idiot. I went from being so confident that we would be able to buy coverage to fretting that I was going to have to pay to extend COBRA on my own while the state program figured out whether we were eligible or not. Luckily, it didn't take 45 days, and they got back to us relatively quickly, and I was still within my grace period for COBRA, so I didn't have to write a rather large check to have a month's worth of health insurance. But just like with these other tips, don't wait. Being laid off is emotionally devastating sometimes, and you are allowed to grieve and have some time for that process, but there are certain things that it is definitely in your benefit to get the ball rolling on. Even if they say no, at least you have an answer as to what your eligibility is, again, for like unemployment or health insurance or something like that. If you're in this right now, you will get through this. Remember, it's not just about cutting costs, it's about buying yourself time and peace of mind by getting clarity on your situation. If this helped, hit the like and subscribe buttons. I'll continue to share my story as I rebuild my life after a layoff, one step at a time. Thanks for watching.